Hi guys, welcome back to our channel, and in today's video we'll be sharing about more cultural differences between Germany and China. So if you have missed our last video, please check it out. For those of you who don't know us yet, I'm Charlotte and I was born and raised in China, and at the age of 15 I moved to England and lived there for 7 years. Now I'm living in Germany with Tim.
Yeah, and I'm Tim. I was born and raised in Germany, and I went to China twice for a couple of months for vacation.
And how long have you stayed in China?
Almost 5 months together.
Alright, so without further ado, let's jump right in. First part we want to talk about is public behavior and social etiquette. First question I want to ask Tim is that why do you have to pay for the public toilet in Germany like most of the time?
Oh yeah, that's actually an interesting question that I ask myself often. I think, for example, when you go to a shopping center, there are always cleaner, like the people who are taking care of the toilets sitting there, and you pay a little bit for their work to clean it. And for example, you also have toilets where you just need to pay like a machine to enter the toilet.
Do you think the toilet that is charging people money is cleaner than the ones that don't?
I think so, as long as there's actually somebody sitting there and cleaning. They're gonna have a basic salary, but mostly as a cleaner you don't earn too much, of course, because your qualification is not as high as for other things. And then I guess what you pay to enter the toilet is just like a tip or something.
It's just weird and it's not really acceptable for me because it's some kind of like basic needs to go to the toilet. If there's, in case of an emergency, like you don't have coins on you, but you really need to use the toilet, what would you do?
I mean, mostly you still can, and there are lots of people who get inside and then they don't leave some money on the plate for the worker. Yeah, I also think it's a human need and you shouldn't pay for it. Same as for water. Everybody needs water to drink, and it shouldn't be €4 at the airport or whatever. So yeah. It's
pretty normal in Germany to tip when you are eating at a restaurant, whereas in China, people never tip at the restaurant, and in some case it might be perceived as a disrespectful behavior. Can you explain why do people tip in Germany, and when do you tip? Like, do you tip most of the time? Like, even if you go to a kebab store or whatever like that?
Mostly I would say it depends on the waitress or the waiter. When they're doing a good job and taking really good care of you, then I would like to give them some extra. And it doesn't really need to be a lot more. It's just sometimes like rounding up the payment you have.
So usually how much would you tip?
It depends. I'm mostly not a big fan of carrying a lot of coins with me. So when I pay €33 for example, then I round up.
An interesting fact in China, sometimes if you go to a restaurant, for example, you and me go to a restaurant and then we eat everything and it costs like 103 yuan, for example, and then the owner will say, oh, you can just pay 100. So it's basically like a reverse tipping.
Yeah,
you pay opposite. 3 yuan less. Yeah, so it's quite interesting.
There are many other jobs where you also have some kind of service involved where you don't tip, which I really think is kind of weird. For example, when you go to a clothes store and they're like helping you find the right clothes and give you any kind of ideas and stuff, you don't tip them. Why do you only tip in a restaurant? That's a question that I'm asking myself a lot.
So in terms of table etiquette, is it true in Germany when you are invited to somebody's house and then you have to finish all the food to show your respect?
I think when people are cooking for you, you mostly eat everything that you put on your plate. You don't have to finish everything which is on the table for everybody. But if you take a lot of food on your plate, then you also should finish it. Otherwise, they might think you're greedy.
But different in China, that when you're invited to somebody's house, you generally leave some food. You don't finish all the dishes. Otherwise, it kind of indicates that the host doesn't offer enough for you. Probably some of you might think it might be a waste when you don't finish all the food, but the Chinese people generally want to offer a lot of food for their guests to show their hospitality, and they are really welcoming the guest.
Like there's enough food for everybody, even though there are some people who don't eat everything on the plate, they also have something that they can choose.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that they are 100% they're going to waste the food. They might heat it up the second day and then they're gonna finish the rest. So I have a question for you. Why is it in Germany nobody uses umbrella when it's raining?
Good question. I think it's very easy to explain. We have a very famous German saying. It's basically translated to "we are not made out of sugar," because obviously sugar is melting in water, right?
Yeah.
And we're not out of sugar. That means nothing happens to us when we go out and it's raining a little bit. Yeah, obviously when it's very heavy rain, then we also use an umbrella. But
I think in China, mostly people would use umbrella if they got it. I think it's important for people to protect the hair because, you know, there's so many bad elements in the rain, like acid or whatever. They want to protect the hair. They don't want to be bald.
I guess it makes sense to use an umbrella to protect, of course, your skin and hair. Holding an umbrella and taking it around with you is also a little bit kind of annoying, maybe. Like
Yeah, I think it's
yesterday.
also like in Germany, it's quite windy when it's raining, so it's really difficult to hold the umbrella. And also, your hand will feel very cold when it's windy and like the temperature is not too high.
Yeah, I would say it's a personal preference.
In China, people are paying more attention to recycling, but I think it's still not as serious as how people recycle in Germany. So can you introduce us to the German recycling system?
Yeah, of course. In Germany, we we have a interesting system called fund.
Yeah.
Every kind of bottle has a different price that you pay on top when you're buying something. For example, plastic bottles mostly between 15 or 25 cents, and then a different amount for glass bottle or like for cans. And when you bring them back to the store, they have a specific machine where you can put the bottles and cans back, and then you receive that money back. It's basically there to save the world and the nature.
It's like a deposit system on the price of the, for example, a drink, and then you put, for example, 25 cents on it. When you're recycling it, you will get the money back.
Exactly.
I think it also adds a little bit more fun to the recycling process, which will motivate more people to recycling and help to protect the environment.
There are also many stories about people, for example, who went to a concert collecting bottles there to afford a car or something. I mean, that's crazy.
I want to do that too.
and basically it's free to collect. Why not? If it's fun and in summer with good weather and stuff can be fun.
Yeah, and how is the recycling system in Germany?
Yeah, Germans, they are very strict about recycling. You have, for example, 4 different trash bins for plastic only, for paper, and also for like bio, which is like, for example, the skin of fruits, meat. And you really have to take care of how you recycle and separate the trash. Otherwise, you can get fined very expensive.
I think Germany is helping the world to save the environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's really important to learn which can you should put, which trash should be. And I want to talk about how trains are different from Germany and China. In our last video, we talked about the punctuality of German trains and Chinese trains. And in this video, I want to talk about like before you board the train, your ticket will always get checked in China. It's different in Germany, right?
Yeah, basically you can just enter any bus or train whenever you like. Sometimes there's somebody coming to get through the train or bus to check your ticket if it's valid. Mostly it's at the specific times where you have lots of traffic. For example, the start of the working hours in the morning between 7 and 8, or in the afternoon when the rush hour is and everybody want to get home. That's the time where you mostly get checked for tickets.
But if you don't have a ticket, you'll get a big fine, right?
Exactly, and I mean it's always a gamble. I feel like whenever I go out with you and we take a train, we don't get checked. But whenever I go to work, for example, I'm alone, I always get checked. It's pretty interesting.
And also, I want to say another point is that in China, before you board a train, all your luggages have to go through the securities for safety issues. I have traveled some countries in Europe. I found out they don't really do security check when you're aboard a train.
Yeah, I think it's to the European
Politics.
Yeah, you basically can travel from country to country without having a big border problem or border check.
But don't you think it's risky that there might be threats in areas where people gather the most?
I would say it is. I would say it's more dangerous, but it doesn't really happen here. I'm not sure why. actually, compared to China, I think it's not a lot of people.
Well, first of all, in China, most of the time trains are on time. So people will get there 30 minutes before their train. So they have enough time to get through the security checks. And it's pretty efficient, I would say. They have many lines. You can choose whatever you want and then you just go through there. It would take you like 5 minutes to get through a line. How do we check a ticket? We just use our ID to put it on the machine and then we can go. It's not like the real ticket anymore. It's just our ID. We just put it there. This system recognizes us and then let us go.
Yeah, I think it's also connected to our next topic when we talk about privacy, since privacy is a very big thing in Germany.
So before we jump into the privacy part, I wanted to talk about how people dressing themselves differently in Germany and China. So I found out that in Germany, people don't really have their fashion style. Like mostly in winter, people just wear black jackets and everything is black.
I'm not sure if it's like a thing for everybody to wear black all the time, but I think what matters is warm and comfy, because in winter you don't want to stay outside and freeze all day. But it also depends on what you have planned in your day, right?
I feel like in China, fashion always takes a priority. Especially younger people always want to follow what is fashionable.
Yeah, I think also from city to city it's a little bit different. In our place, for example, I think most people just want to be comfy and comfortable.
I think another reason might be that in China, if you want to dress very fancy, you don't need to spend a lot. Usually you can get really cheap and fancy clothes on Taobao or Pinduoduo.
I think so too, because first of all, most things are imported to Germany, imported from China, for example. And then everything, of course, get more pricey. But I also think if there are some people on the street who look very fancy or like different, everybody is looking at them, and I feel like mostly not in a nice way. Yeah, our next topic is privacy. I think privacy is a very big difference between Germany and China. For example, when I went to China, everywhere I went was cameras on the highway, anywhere. Germans, they value privacy a lot. You also have to sign a letter wherever you're going, for example, to doctors. You give them the right to save your data, your personal information for, I think, 1 year after it has to be deleted. And everybody want to be mostly undercover, that nobody knows what you're doing, where you're going, what you're working and everything.
Yeah. I think putting cameras everywhere just makes people feel safe in China. And in Europe, I wouldn't go out after like 10 p.m. But in China, I feel very safe to walk around even after 2 a.m. I think mostly it's for security reasons. And also, China is way bigger than other countries in Europe. It's easier for people to track down criminals. Also, for example, we mentioned from our last topic, we're talking about the security check. You have to use your ID to purchase your ticket.
Yeah.
It's also important, for example, if a criminal wanna run away.
Yeah, they can't go anywhere.
They can't go anywhere.
Not with public transport.
Yeah, not with any public transport. And it's really useful for helping the police to track down specific criminals with public transportation system and ID.
I think cameras would be a good thing to keep the security a little bit higher, maybe, because most people wouldn't just do stupid things anymore randomly at any place.
In Germany, when I am vlogging on the street, some people would like hide their face or whatever. Even though I would put something on their face after when I'm editing it, I wouldn't really show their face in my video though. They really value their privacy and don't want to be filmed in any random people's cameras. But I totally respect that. And in China, people don't really respect other people's privacy in terms of filming. You know, when they're, for example, they're visiting a tourist attraction, they're just filming everybody and don't really care about what other people think. But most of the time, I would hide my face or like turn around away from them. I don't want my face to be filmed by them. Also, I feel uncomfortable when they're doing that.
Yeah, I have an interesting story that I can share real quick. One of my colleagues had a sick leave, but he was not actually sick. So he went to a hair cutter and met his boss.
Okay.
At a sick leave when he was not working, pretending to be sick. That's maybe also something why people want to be a little bit undercover when they go out, have a sick leave, and getting filmed going to a concert. That wouldn't be the smartest thing, right?
Yeah. So what's your opinion about Chinese putting cameras everywhere, and we have to use ID to buy our SIM card for our phone, and for tickets public transportation?
Generally, I think it's a good thing to do because it keeps the security higher and it's also easier to track down the criminals. I would like to have some of these things in Germany too, but I also can understand that people value their privacy a lot. I also don't want everybody to know what I'm doing in my private time, for example, or everybody to have a look on me, what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I can understand both sides.
I just think the privacy is really big and controversial topic. So this is the end of our video. If you like our video, please give us a thumb like, and also please subscribe to our channel if you enjoy seeing our videos.
Leave some nice comments, and maybe you also have some things that is very controversial and also something that we can make another video about. Always interesting to hear your guys' opinion. I bet there's still a lot of things that are different and interesting and to read and talk about.
Alright, see you guys in my next video. Bye bye.